All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So just as usual, we are working off of the Common Core Basic Science book today. And what I'd ask you to do first, if some of you have already gotten started on it, is that first page, page 88. If you can just read through that. It's kind of, we talked about a little bit the other day when we talked about biosphere. What was a biosphere? What was that?
It's a huge place.
Pardon?
It's a huge place.
Yeah, the huge. What's included in the biosphere?
Ecosystem.
The ecosystems, right? What else?
The biome.
The biomes, like all that. It's like the whole thing, right? The biosphere is the atmosphere. It's all of the earth. That's what we were talking about. So if you can just finish reading the rest of that page, because we started a little bit the other day, and then do the think about science activity at the bottom, which is really just that vocab matchup, which you'll need to go back, through the text to match that up. So use the text to assist you in that, okay? And then we're going to get rolling with the rest of the activity on page 89 then, okay? Questions? All right, I'm going to give you just a few minutes to do that. I know most of you are already done. Yeah, you can go ahead and write that in a separate sheet of paper. The packets that you have at your tables, those we're going to use towards the bottom of our list today. And I'll walk through that in just a minute. I think there's a couple more students coming, so I wanted to hold off. Hi. Right up there. Yeah, so we're just going to start with page 88 and 89. This is right from the packet like we did the other day. And you might have, I think you were working on that. Okay. Yeah. Does that activity make sense? Do you get what you're doing with this? Because some people want to, it's like one or the other. What's that definition fit? Okay. Do you get that activity?
Kind of. What is it?
So all you're doing is which one of these words, niche or biosphere, fits that definition.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's just really a definition match. You got it. You're good. Good. Probably a niche again. Huh. Let's take just a couple more minutes. I see most of you are almost done with that. And if you're not, don't worry about it. We'll go over it together. Yep. If you want to start reading, you can start reading that if you want. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got mine done already.
Okay.
How would you say this?
Niche or niche.
Niche?
Yeah,
Okay.
either way.
Alright.
Some people say niche.
Okay.
It's like my niche. It's my thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking everybody's here that's going to be here today, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through our itinerary for today. So we're going to start, we just started off with this activity, just kind of reviewing again the whole biosphere and talking a little bit about ecosystems, et cetera. But we're going to go on and we're going to, today our goal is, our end product that we're hoping is that I'm hoping that we're going to you're going to present an analysis of multiple texts. So what that means is you've got two primary texts that we're going to be using. They're actually secondary sources, but the two things that we're going to be using are your textbook, and then I gave you an article from Newsella, the Python article. And we're going to take those two articles, and you're going to use the textbook to help guide you through that other article. And the end product that we're creating today is you are going to create a food chain that looks similar to what we're going to see on page 89 in just a moment here. We're going to create that on cardstock and then also attach to that an explanation. It's going to come with some type of explanation using evidence from the article that you read to support the food chain that you create. All right? And there's an example of a food chain, so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. I'm not just throwing this at you. We're going to walk through it together a little bit. Let's look at those 4 definitions really quick, though. What were the, somebody want to give me number 1? What was number 1?
Biosphere,
Biosphere, and what's the definition that goes with it?
where life exists on the earth.
Okay, say that again.
Where life exists on the earth.
Yeah, where life exists on the earth. Great. Somebody want to do number 2? Go ahead, Razi. Sorry.
Ecosystem, home for living things.
Great. What do we have for,
Environment
yeah, environment?
is where it's living and non-living things.
Yeah, the environment includes, those are where we've got the living and the non-living things, right? And the last one, April, did you want to do that one?
Sure, niche, population, a role or job.
Great. Any questions on those? It was just vocab I wanted to make sure we had so that you can use that now when you're writing your description of your food chain. All right? Okay, so go ahead over to page 89. Actually, it should be page 90. I apologize. You actually want to be on page 90, not 89. I have to change that. All right, so we're going to look at page 90. And let's do, somebody feel like reading out loud this morning? I know, so excited to read out loud.
You want us to read the whole paragraph?
Yeah, I'd love for somebody to read.
Okay, I can read.
Go ahead, Rosie, thanks.
Okay. Energy cycles. Energy from the sun is the source of almost all energy on Earth. Green plants, the producers, trap energy during photosynthesis and convert it into glucose.
Herbivores.
Herbivores such
Yep.
as cows and deer eat the green plants. Carnivores such as bears and falcons eat other animals. Omnivores such as humans and raccoons eat both plants and animals.
Okay, what does that have to do with energy cycles? Why did they give this title of energy cycles at the top of this paragraph?
They're telling you how they reproduce.
Say that again, a little louder. What'd you say?
They're telling you how they reproduce, like by eating other animals and they keep reproducing.
Okay, so they're kind of talking, it's really how they, you're saying reproduce, but it's like how they get their energy, right? So the energy, ultimately, where's the first energy coming from? What did the plants, where are the plants getting their energy to grow? The sun. Okay. The sun is that's the major energy. Oh, you guys are good.
Main source of energy.
Exactly. Perfect. All right. Go ahead. Somebody else want to read the next paragraph?
Yes.
Good. Thanks, Fayez.
The food chain is the path that energy follows as it moves through the community. It starts with green plants, the producers, and moves on through herbivores. Large conveyors are usually at the top of the food chain when an organism dies. Decomposers break apart the body, returning the nutrients to the soil. All the many food chains within a community form a food web. A change in the population of one organism of the food web will affect every other organism.
Great. What are some parts of that food chain? They've actually named a few of them now. What are some of the different components of the food chain?
Green plants,
Plants,
Plants, grasshopper,
animals,
vole.
animals, voles.
water.
That's what the one they're using here. They're showing that. So the food chain, while there's water in it, it's not really,
No.
it's not like something that's consumed in the food. I guess it is, but it's not like, it's not an energy source. It's used to create the
What
energy.
about when you get-
Yeah, it's used to create the energy and stuff, but it's not necessarily like considered one of the consumption things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, but you're absolutely right. It's
And I have a
used.
question though, why do people say that humans can survive on water?
Right, you can't survive without it. You need that to create the energy. But it's not like if you can't survive on water alone, right? Like you need something to. I think there's been a few people.
Teacher, what is dead organisms?
What are the
Dead organisms.
dead organisms?
Yeah.
So what they're talking about is they talk about decomposers and dead organisms. So anything that dies, but also yesterday we talked about what ends up at the bottom. What do we talk about? The fecal matter and things like that. So the feces left behind from animals, the organisms that die, you know, any living thing that dies is a dead organism. Is that what you're wondering? Yeah. Okay. And then there's the decomposers, which actually those are your fungi, right? They could be even considered really small, like worms and things like that. Those things decompose things. Okay, they decompose those dead organisms, and then that's used. What do you know what a great fertilizer is?
Isn't that what you put on the grass?
Right, but and what do you ever drive out in the country? We're not too far from it here.
There's one that they put like.
Yeah. Yeah, they use manure, and you can smell that. But it's a great fertilizer because it's all those nutrients and things like that that have decomposed and broken down, and they throw it on the ground to re-enrich the soil. So yeah, it does smell. Yeah, it's a great conversation. I'm glad this is going. Okay, so yeah, all of that goes into this food chain. So those decomposers decompose the dead organisms. Plants grow up out of that. Then what happens with the plants?
The animals.
Grasshopper eat that, all insects eat that.
What do we call those things that eat? And that was up in the first paragraph. What are the,
Herbivores?
Energy.
yeah, herbivores. Herbivores. Herbivores are the things that live off of plants, right? All right. Go ahead and read that little, do you see the chart? All right. Let's read that. I'll put the chart up on the board too. Let's look at that. Somebody want to read the paragraph that goes with the chart?
As demonstrated in the food chain above, each living thing is food for the next organism. For example, plant become food for grasshopper. Grasshopper become food for wolves, and wolves become food for the hawks. The hawks droppings become food for the bacteria, which turn it into nutrient for grass.
You see the whole cycle there? This is what you're going to be creating based off of the article we read. Oh, it went. I thought I had it up there. Sorry. All right. So does everybody know what a vole is?
No, I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah, I have to tell you, that was one I was like, oh yeah, they're those little gross. So it's a type of rodent, but they eat the grasshoppers. So they just grabbed that one to show you. There are lots of different food chains, right? You know, we're part of the food chain. We eat food, and we eat, the plants, and we eat meat, and some of you might only eat plants. But so we're part of that food chain. The food chains can look different in different areas, or when something else gets mixed into it. So that's what we're taking this food chain. Keep this food chain in mind when we look at the next article by Newsella, because this food chain can also get interrupted. Can you imagine if we take something out? So imagine that there's a drought. How's that going to affect things?
The grasshopper won't eat.
The grasshopper won't eat. And then what happens?
The rodent won't eat.
The rodent won't eat. Then what happens?
The hawk.
The hawks. So you see how it's a vicious cycle. When they talk about species, you've all heard about species becoming endangered or things like that. It's because something's happened in that food chain. And sometimes the food chain gets interrupted by us, by humans coming in and either killing something or taking over something or damaging the water supply. you know? So that's what we're going to read about today. Sometimes, though, it's another invasive species that comes in. And we're going to talk about what that word is. So look at the Pythons article that's at your seats. So what I'd like us to do with this article is at your table groups, I'm going to have you read through this and kind of talk about it at each section. Okay, see how it's broken down? Look through the article, see how it's broken into sections? Okay, so after a section, kind of discuss as a table what it is that just happened. Like when we were doing summarizing before, kind of summarize as a table what you just read so that we can use this. What we're going to do is you're going to take this information, so you may want to highlight some things, because you're going to create a food chain involving this python. Okay? That's the end goal that you're going to come up with. And you're going to base it off of evidence from the text.
We don't have to draw them.
You can. Or you can, you know, if you want to go home, print out a picture. But otherwise, I was just going to have you draw it. Okay? I'm going to hand out a graphic organizer that may help as you're going through to synthesize some of the information you're reading. So it has on here, it's just the cause and effect model, which we've used before. So you can just write some of those down. That might help to keep things organized as you're reading, because it's a kind of lengthy article. Okay? All right, so you're at your table groups, and you can go ahead and start if you want to take turns reading so that everybody hits a paragraph, that would be great.